Let's get after it with another edition of the 3-Point Stance.
Ready, set, hike. Brad Evans and Ryan Horvat are lined up in their 3-point stance to blitz through every NFL team on BetMGM Tonight.
All right, so we're continuing our series. Last week, we divulged on every single team in the NFC South. Hey, by the way, if you miss any of those episodes, you can always go back and listen at your leisure on the BetMGM Tonight podcast. Subscribe, like, download wherever you get your podcasts. It is the BetMGM Tonight podcast. But tonight, we're going to travel and stay in the South, but we're going to go to the AFC this time. We're going to start with the Tennessee Titans. They're in Nash Vegas, the team of the number 1 overall pick, and selected Cam Ward. So a new era is about to get underway there in Tennessee. Let's start with fantasy values, and we're going to play a little game of overvalued, undervalued, or properly valued. So let's start off with Tony Pollard. Right now, in early drafts in fantasy football, and always half-point PPR is the scoring system that we feature, RB24 with an ADP of 107.66 overall. So the very last RB2 in 12-team leagues currently in average drafts and going just outside pick 100 overall, Tony Pollard, is he overvalued, undervalued, or properly valued, Horvey?
Great question, Brad. I'll say properly valued, man, just because of what the Titans' offense was last season and just because Cam Ward is a rookie quarterback, right? So there might be some early struggles. I mean, Pollard had a solid season. The knock on him that last year in Dallas was, is he an every down back? And they didn't think so. So then he goes to Tennessee. We worried a little bit about him splitting time with Spears, but he still had over 1,000 yards rushing for the third consecutive season, had 5 touchdowns. But only had only 5 touchdowns, because he was only 22nd in red zone touches. But you figure with Cam Ward, man, that has to be an instant upgrade over whatever Will Levis or Mason Rudolph were. So I'm going to say right now, properly valued. I do think he could be a high-end running back, too, this season if Cam Ward lives up to the hype, though.
Yeah, I'm going to say he's properly valued as well. I think he's got to straddle the fence of that RB2 line in 12-team leagues just last year. I think it's going to be more of the same. I mean, we were already talking. Ben Arthur we had on earlier from Fox Sports who covers the Tennessee Titans, and I asked him point blank, what's a platoon going to look like this season? Going to be more of the same as last year? And he goes, yeah, I'm probably going to be 60-40 in favor of Tony Pollard, and I think that's right. It might be like 65-35 at most. You look at Tony Pollard, an impressive number 9 in yak per attempt last season among all NFL running backs at 3.40 in that category. It was also number 22 in total missed tackles forced. It was only number 46 in yards created per touch. That's a little bit of an uneasy metric that is out there. He's projected to have the 14th easiest strength of schedule, so middle of the pack among fantasy running backs, though Tennessee was next to last in run blocking efficiency seasons ago, so they had to greatly improve in that category. Mike Clay's got him at RB25, projected for 942 on the ground, 5 rushing TDs, 42 receptions, 273, and 1 receiving touchdown. Again, that feels right. That's why RB24, it's about where he's going to finish. So you and I in agreement there, properly valued on one Tony Pollard. Let's go to the Riddler. Riddle me this, riddle me that. Is he going to be one fat fantasy cat this year, that being Calvin Ridley? Wide receiver 43. So right now, wide receiver 4 price tag, 139.93 overall. Knowing that price, Horvat, is he overvalued, undervalued, or properly valued?
I'm going to say he's undervalued, man. I think he could be a top 35, maybe even top 30 wide receiver this season if they get consistent quarterback play from Cam Ward. Like last year with Will Levis and Mason Rudolph and that nonsense quarterback room, he still had over 1,000 receiving yards and 64 receptions. You want more than 4 touchdowns, I get. The year before that, though, we saw 8 touchdowns with Trevor Lawrence, and he was even beat up that season. And the Riddler in that 1 year in Jacksonville still had over 1,000 yards receiving and 76 receptions. So I think he could honestly be top 32, top 35 wide receiver this year with Cam Ward, and he's going to see a ton of targets.
Dude, he's way undervalued. I totally agree. Cam Ward is a gamer. And, just like Ben Arthur was saying, he's shown pretty good zip on his fastball so far in rookie training camp. And, that mini camp should be able to carry over in the main training camp. and a guy that will go out there and try to play unfazed football. If he's going to make mistakes. He's a first-year player, but he'll be able to shake those off and continue firing. And again, with the velocity he's got on those throws, that's going to benefit Calvin Ridley. We've heard that Calvin Ridley could really be featured heavily in the short field screen game, maybe on some shallow crossing routes as well. So high percentage throws, a bit of the confidence of Cam Ward. That's great news for Ridley because he's very creative after the catch.
Yeah.
He was number 1 last season in total air yards, and he was also number 1 in unrealized air yards. Thank you, Mr. Mayo. You sucked. That being Will Levis. There's only one direction for him to go. Well, the workload's going to be there. He averaged 7.1 targets per game. I think it's going to be a similar vicinity in that category. He was number 20 in total route wins. I like him quite a bit. I'm going to be targeting him heavily at his wide receiver 4 price point. So undervalued. I think he finishes top 35 at a minimum and half-point PPR leagues. And again, you're getting him at wide receiver 43 and nearly a pick number 140 overall. Let's go to Chig Okonkwo. We heard Gunnar Helm from Ben Arthur saying he could be a surprise at tight end, but Chig is still there.
Yeah.
He is tight end 27, 231.01. I've always been interested in this guy. But do you feel he is overvalued, undervalued, or properly valued, again, at TE 27?
I'll actually say, man, he's slightly undervalued. I think he could be a top 20 tight end. Again, like last year, 52 receptions, only 2 touchdowns because they were never in the red zone with Will Levis as their starting quarterback. The year before that, 54 receptions, only 1 touchdown, though. Kind of like I said with Tony Pollard, who was outside the top 20 in red zone opportunities. I think if they do get down, number one, you got a rookie quarterback, and I know it's cliche to say, but check downs and safety valves, and he's going to be looking for the tight end a lot. And he's 6'3", so if they do get into the red zone, 6'3", 238, I think he's going to get the looks. He could have 6 to 8 touchdowns. So I'm going to say a little undervalued. I could see him finishing top 20, at least top 22.
Yeah, slightly undervalued for me. I think he's in that probably tight end 22 to tight end 25 range. So at T27, I'll agree. Slightly undervalued in my opinion. Here's some of the shocking data from last year. He was number 37 among tight ends in red zone targets. He only had 5. He was also terrible in terms of quarterback passer rating when targeted at 78.2. Again, no knock on Okonkwo. Point all the fingers at Will Levis. He stunk to high heaven. He was really bad. And we documented that continuously here on BetMGM Tonight. Mike Clay is kind of projected 77 targets, 55 catches, 566, 3 touchdowns. That's tied in 20. Again, I think he's going to be in that 22 to 25 range. I agree. Slightly undervalued. Good bench stash in like a 14-team or deeper league. And that is about it. All right, let's do a little prop stop. And start with Cam Ward. Over or under 17.5 passing touchdowns, minus 115 either direction. What say you? Over or under?
I think I'm going to bet this, Brad. I think he minimum finishes with 18 touchdown passes, right? Mason Rudolph last year in mop-up duty. Oh, not mop-up duty. He was the starter for a couple weeks because Levis was nonsense. But he had 9 touchdowns to 9 picks. And Will Levis, as bad as he was, and he was bad, he had an 81.4 rating, still threw for 13 touchdowns. I like Cam Ward, man. There might be some growing pains. The other thing is that defense isn't very good. So he's going to be probably dropping back like 35 to 40 times every single week. I'll go over. I think he throws minimum of 18, like I said, but I could see it being closer to like 20 to 22.
I think it's going to be 20 at least, to be honest. It might be right on the nose at 20. But yeah, 20 and 22 does feel right. Mike Clay's got him projected for exactly 20. He was number 10 among all FBS quarterbacks in adjusted completion percentage last year. Toughness, decision-making, gamesmanship. I mean, he's got a nice little package about him. I think there was a little bit of a chip on his shoulder for how he was covered on draft night. Everybody just kind of glossed over him. The number 1 overall pick is supposed to be a celebration. You're the top dog, and everybody just kept talking about Shedeur Sanders and that circus and that saga that went on. He also got to take into account how bad the D is probably going to be. They're projected to be the 4th worst defense, according to Mike Clay, and I think that's fair. They were bottom 5 last season in EPA per play defense. Yeah, put it all together. I like Cam Ward over 17.5 passing touchdowns. Calvin Ridley quickly over under 949.5 receiving yards. I just made up this line.
Over, man. He is going to go over 1,000 yards receiving. He did it with Will Levis and Mason Rudolph. You look at the depth behind him. Tyler Lockett, not very young. Trey Burks, not very good. Van Jefferson, Bryce Oliver, Colton Dowell, Mason Kinsey. I don't even know who that is. So, yeah, over, way over.
Yeah, totally over. Again, have him on your cheat sheet highlighted. Go the extra dollar if you're in a salary cap / auction draft. Calvin Ridley is going to turn a tidy profit this season in fantasy football. Mark our words. All right, let's do a little team lean. Over under on team wins. 5.5 is the number right now at BetMGM. Now, choose the over at -150. The under at +125. What direction go? Over or under?
I lean over, man, right? Not like a big bet because they could always just win 5 games, but they have a top 10. If you look at strength of schedule right now, they're number 8. They're right after Carolina. I know we're going to get more clarification on the schedule this week when it's released, but I lean over. I think they could be a 6-7 win team with Cam Ward as their starting quarterback, as long as that defense improves just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I hate the juice at -150. I personally wouldn't invest on this, but, gun to my head, if I got to make a choice, it would be over. I think they win 6 exactly. They're at -150. You're right. The ease of strength of schedule is quite attractive. Mike Clay gives them a 40% or greater win probability to win 7 games. So that's entirely there on the table. Again, it's all about the defense. It's really got to improve. I think the offense will make some strides. But, again, they were 25 in EPA per play D a season ago. So they have got to at least play somewhat average, slightly below average defense. If they play slightly below average defense, they may win 7 games, which would put them on an upward swing in momentum for future seasons, to say the least.